Good morning, everyone. I'm Dan Garodnick, Chair of the City Planning Commission and Director of the Department of City Planning. Welcome to today's public meeting of January 22nd. Before getting to our public hearings, we're going to start with votes on several developments that would create around 600 new homes in total if approved. First up is a 100% income-restricted, affordable, transit-oriented development by the Department of Housing Preservation and Development. This building, located at 581 Grant Avenue in East New York, Brooklyn, would include over 170 new homes and around a third of an acre of public open space, all close to the Grant Avenue A train stop. We'll next vote on another project by HPD in Brooklyn, known as the Brownsville Neighborhood Construction Program, NCP. These three 100% income-restricted affordable buildings would bring a total of 60 homes to 425 Mother Gaston Boulevard, 546 Thomas S. Boylan Street, and 1733 St. Mark's Avenue. The sites are all within the vicinity of Subway or Long Island Railroad stations and a branch of the Brooklyn Public Library. From there, we'll vote on yet another HPD project, the Beacon in East Harlem. This infill development would replace a surface parking lot on East 120th Street with over 280 income-restricted homes and be located near several green spaces, including Wagner Playground. This project would also facilitate a full renovation and enlargement of the East Harlem Multi-Service Center and the construction of new pedestrian pathways to the nearby Wagner houses. This site was first identified for affordable housing as part of the City Council's East Harlem Planning Study, a recommendation that made its way into the final DCP-led plan for East Harlem. It's a great example of how the city is following through with its commitments. The last vote for today is on an application to provide height and setback relief for a new 7-story residential building with over 80 homes, located within the Windsor Park Cooperative Campus in Oakland Gardens, Queens. The site sits just steps away from Cunningham Park. There are only 2 public hearings on the agenda today, both office acquisitions by the New York Police Department and both located on Queens Boulevard. The first address, 9777 Queens Boulevard in Forest Hills, would provide new space for between 45 and 60 members of the NYPD's Internal Affairs Bureau. The second site is just down the road at 9525 Queens Boulevard in Rego Park. The NYPD looks to lease space in this building for its Queens North Traffic Enforcement Division, and if approved, around 230 personnel would operate there in several shifts. We will also hold a special review session to further discuss 125 Perry Street, a garage in the West Village looking to convert to a residential building and renew its authorization to eliminate all 168 of its parking spaces. So, with that, Madam Secretary, let's get into it. The floor is yours.
Good morning. This is the City Planning Commission public meeting held remotely through the NYC Engage portal and in person in the CPC hearing room, 120 Broadway, Lower Concourse. Today is Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025. I will now call the roll. Chair Garodnick?
Here.
Vice Chair Knuckle?
Here.
Commissioner Benjamin?
Present.
Commissioner Cerullo?
Here.
Commissioner Crowell? Yep. Commissioner Dweck?
Here.
Commissioner Gold? Commissioner Goodrich?
Here.
Commissioner Kermani?
Here.
Commissioner Mann?
Here.
Commissioner Marin?
Here.
Commissioner Osorio?
Here.
Commissioner Ramprashad?
Here.
A quorum is present. The first item is the approval of minutes of the public meeting of Wednesday, January 8th, 2025.
Great. I make a motion to approve those minutes of Wednesday, January 8th. Is there a second? Thank you, Commissioner Benjamin. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Minutes are approved.
Scheduling. Calendar numbers 1 through 14. Scheduling Wednesday, February 5th, 2025 for a public hearing to be held in person in the CPC hearing room, 120 Broadway, and remotely through the NYC Engage portal.
Great. On the resolution, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Thank you, Commissioner Kermani. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, resolution is approved.
The next part of the calendar is the reports section on page 6. Borough of Brooklyn, calendar numbers 15, 16, and 17. 581 Grant Avenue Development, CD5, calendar number 15, C240402, HAK, calendar number 16, C240403, ZMK, calendar number 17, N240404, ZRK. In the matter of applications for zoning map and zoning text amendments, UDAP designation, project approval, and disposition of city-owned property concerning 581 Grant Avenue Development. For favorable reports on calendar numbers 15, 16, and 17, Chair Garodnick?
Aye.
Vice Chair Knuckle?
Yes.
Commissioner Benjamin? Aye. Commissioner Cerullo?
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck?
Yes.
Commissioner Gold?
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrich?
Yes.
Commissioner Cremani?
Yes.
Commissioner Mann?
Yes.
Commissioner Marin?
Yes.
Commissioner Osorio?
Yes.
Commissioner Rampachet?
Yes.
Favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 15, 16, and 17. Calendar numbers 18, 19, and 20. Brownsville NCP, CD 16, calendar number 18, C 250036, HAK, calendar number 19, C 250037, ZMK, calendar number 20, N 250038, ZRK. In the matter of applications for zoning map and zoning text amendments, UDOT designation, project approval, and disposition of city-owned property concerning Brownsville NCP. For favorable reports on calendar numbers 18, 19, and 20, Chair Garodnick.
Aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles?
Yes.
Commissioner Benjamin?
Aye.
Commissioner Cerullo?
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck?
Yes.
Commissioner Gold?
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrich?
Yes.
Commissioner Cremani?
Yes.
Commissioner Mann?
Yes.
Commissioner Marin?
Yes.
Commissioner Osorio?
Yes.
Commissioner Rampachet?
Yes.
Favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 18, 19, and 20. Borough of Manhattan, calendar numbers 21 through 24, The Beacon, CD 11, calendar number 21, C 240386, ZMM, calendar number 22, C 240387, HAM, calendar number 23, N 240388, ZRM, calendar number 24, C 240385, MMM. In the matter of applications for zoning map and zoning text amendments, city map amendment, UDOT designation, project approval, and disposition of city-owned property concerning the Beacon. For favorable reports on calendar numbers 21, 22, 23, and 24, Chair Garodnick.
Aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Benjamin.
Aye.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Crowell.
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Gold.
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrich.
Yes.
Commissioner Cremani.
Yes.
Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Osorio.
Yes.
Commissioner Rampachet.
Yes.
Favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 21, 22, 23, and 24. Borough of Queens, calendar number 25, Windsor Park Height Authorization, CD 11, N 240382, ZAQ. In the matter of an application for the grant of a zoning authorization concerning Windsor Park Height Authorization. For the adoption of calendar number 25, Chair Garodnick.
Aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Benjamin.
Aye.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Crowell.
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Gold.
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrich.
Yes.
Commissioner Cremani.
Yes.
Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner Manin.
Yes.
Commissioner Osorio.
Yes.
Commissioner Rampachet. Calendar number 25 has been adopted. The next part of the calendar is the public hearing section on page 8.
Great, thank you. Let's move right into it. For those members of the public wishing to be heard today, you are more than welcome, and you'll have 3 minutes. But let's go right into the first item.
My apologies. Borough of Queens, calendar number 26, 97-77, Queens Boulevard, NYPD Office Space Acquisition, CD6, N250105PXQ, public hearing in the matter of an application for a notice of intent to acquire office space concerning 9777 Queens Boulevard, NYPD Office Space Acquisition.
Great, and on behalf of the applicant, we have Eric Alberti, Anthony Francione, Michael Grease, Ralph Giordano, William Costello, and Alex Treskowski of a variety of NYPD and DCAS here to present on Zoom. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Internal Affairs Bureau Groups 51, 53, and 56 were formerly located at a leased location at 1140 45th Road in Long Island City. They were there from 2001 to 2021. The landlord did not wish to renew their lease in order to sell the building. These groups were relocated to IAB facilities at 241 West 47th Street, which is our Group 51. And Group 53 and 56 were located to our facility at 315 Hudson Street. These were already operational IAB facilities that were at or near capacity, and we sort of shoehorned these groups into those facilities. Group 51 had to subsequently be moved to 233 Broadway from Brooklyn because of an overcrowding condition there. Group 51 is our sexual assault allegations group. Previously, it investigated police impersonations. They are responsible for investigating citywide crimes of possible sexual nature. Group 53 is our school safety division. They're responsible for investigating allegations of misconduct involving school safety agents citywide. And Group 56 is our traffic group. They are responsible for investigating traffic agents citywide. The proposed new location at 9777 Queens Boulevard will be a 7th floor location. 45 to 60 uniformed members of the service will reporting to the site. The site will be operational 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Most will be working from hours in shifts between 0600 and 1500 and 1500 to midnight. The 7th floor location will consist of components of a reception area, private offices, administrative workspace, conference rooms and interview rooms, and male and female locker rooms. We will consist of 8 dedicated parking spots for the NYPD on the 1st floor with access via 64th Road. The dedicated parking will be exclusively used for unmarked and marked police vehicles, to include several electric marked vehicles. 2 level 3 chargers will be installed as part of the construction. All members of the service who work at this facility are not in uniform and will not draw any attention to this facility. The cars that will be parked in the garage will be unmarked cars and will also not draw attention to this facility. Does anyone have any questions?
Great. Thank you very much. We're going to start with the Vice Chairman, Mr. Knuckles.
Thank you, Mr. Francione, for your presentation. What is the proposed length of this lease?
That I do not have information on. If someone else wants to jump in with that.
I can answer that. This is Eric Alberti from DCAS. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So it is a 20-year lease, and we do have some options of 2 10-year options after that. So this is a long-term lease.
Thank you.
No problem.
Commissioner Dweck?
Thank you. I noted you had 8 department vehicles to be parked at the facility. How many private personal vehicles from officers do you expect to be parked in the surrounding area, and to what extent will that impact the traffic and availability of parking for residents in the area?
Well, the area has great access to public transportation. The M&R subway lines are about a block away from the facility. The Forest Hills Long Island Railroad is about a mile away from the facility. We don't expect too much street parking by our personnel at all.
Thank you.
They're expected to take public transportation.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Rampersad?
Thank you for the presentation. I had 2 quick questions. Number one, in the event that you have to expand, is this facility able to expand further in terms of the number of personnel that you would hold here? And second question is, were there any other locations that you were looking at before you decided on this location here?
Yeah, there were a few other locations we did look at. Some of them fell through in lease negotiations. I don't have that off the top of my head. We can get that for you, though, if needed. Most of them were around the Long Island City area that we looked at. And answer to the other question is, it's pretty much, I would say, we're going to move them in with about 90% capacity at this point, 90 to 95% capacity. Everybody has a seat.
I can jump in real quick. Some of the other sites that were considered were 9525 Queens Boulevard, 421 27th Avenue, 903 44th Road, and 4501 Northern Boulevard.
Okay.
All in northern Queens. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, to answer your expansion question, it's a Class A building in Queens, one of the few ones in Queens. There's always space available and can be made available to the city.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Benjamin?
Hi. I'm not sure who to direct this to, but the person who spoke who said that one of the sites they looked at was 9525 Queens Boulevard, and we have another item on from the police department for space at 9525 Queens Boulevard. So I'm wondering why that space was not appropriate for 2 NYPD offices.
I believe it was just a layout issue.
Yeah, it's a
Uh,
layout
to-
issue, and the other site, when we get to that one, the 9525 was better suited for who the unit that's going to, because it offers a lot more parking. And the other unit has a more of a parking component than this one does.
Right, but you didn't need parking, except for 8 cars. So I'm just wondering whether it would have been more economical, except to combine all of the space in one location rather than have 2 leases in 2 locations that are a couple of blocks away from each other.
If I could just answer up really quickly, the use for the Internal Affairs Bureau is of a confidential nature, so it wouldn't be conducive to have a space with another New York City Police Department unit, specifically because of the confidentiality of our investigations. We have victims that come forward that need that safe space, so to have them walk into another New York City Police Department facility wouldn't be conducive to our confidential investigations.
And the units going into that other building is a traffic unit, and our unit who investigates traffic units would also be in the same building as the traffic units.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Gold?
Just 1 or 2 points of follow-up there to Commissioner Benjamin's question, and you tell us you certainly have looked at the different spaces. Perhaps was there space, was there enough space available in either of the buildings that perhaps, one broader lease could have been signed, right? So you could have taken more space and, different entrances or whatnot. So, just sort of want to understand that a little bit better. And then 2, when you think about internal affairs or really anything for investigations, I think you mentioned this is Class A office space. Is there a need for Class A, considering, I think we're not in Class A space?
To answer your Class A question, Queens isn't an office market necessarily, so you really don't have the different classes like you have in Manhattan. Your Class C in Manhattan is probably the same, or Class B is probably the same caliber as a Class A in Queens. So it is a different market. It is a different animal. When I say Class A, I mean it's a dedicated office space with all the office amenities that an office space requires. So that's kind of what you have in Queens. That's the product.
Got it. Okay. And then just, to the first, the market, I assume the DCAS know the market certainly better than we do, but, was it possible, or was it actually examined or looked at to see if, consolidation, separate floors, separate entrances, or was it just not enough space available in the buildings?
It was before my tenure. Those spaces that were looked at, from what the notes I have, is they were just inadequate layouts for the use of this unit.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Mann?
Yeah. Hi, just a question for DCAS. It's a bit of a larger policy question that relates to these 2 applications. Given the depressed value of commercial real estate in the city, has the city been thinking about acquisition of buildings as opposed to long-term leases? Because a lot of the other actions we're taking will actually reduce the supply of office space, which will, I suspect, over the next couple of decades, increase office rents. So I'm just curious, how is the city thinking about acquisition of office space from an ownership standpoint in a depressed market? That is the first question. And the second question is just really more about the ongoing swirl of concern about DCAS's decision-making around real estate. Is there anything you can do or provide today to reassure us there about sort of that this transaction was done in a appropriate arm's length context from the city's perspective?
Sure, I can answer that. In terms of acquisitions, there is rumblings. It's a little bit above my personal pay grade in terms of what's going to be acquired, what's not. But I do know there are rumblings of acquiring space in a depressed market. I can easily put you in touch with the people who are discussing that at the moment. in terms of arm's length, I've been working on this particular project for a year and a half, and it's been going on for a year and a half prior to my involvement in this. We do a market survey. We do compare it to other buildings. We do shop around, and we're not allowed to do a above market transaction. So this is, we do our due diligence to make sure that the comparables and the appraisals come through so that these numbers work.
Just a quick follow-up there on the first point. Then, yeah, I think it does seem, I don't need to have a follow-up. I appreciate the offer. It does seem like a very opportune time, though, for the city to be in a acquisition mindset, especially for functions we expect to need over the course of many decades. And I think that'll save the city money over the long term. So just wanted to encourage that. Thanks for the answer.
No problem.
Thanks, Commissioner. Okay. Thank you. Those are all the questions that we have for the applicant team. So thank you all very much for your time and your answers to the questions. I do not see members of the public wishing to be heard on this item. Just going to give a final call for that just to make sure. Okay. Seeing none, we'll close the hearing on calendar 26. Let's move on to the next item.
Calendar number 27, 9525 Queens Boulevard, NYPD Office Acquisition, CD6 N250092 PXQ, public hearing in the matter of an application for a notice of intent to acquire office space concerning 9525 Queens Boulevard, NYPD Office Acquisition.
Okay, and for this application, we have Nicole Pavez, William Costello, Franklin Sepulveda, Charles Gross, Owais Kanzada, Mohammed Rahman, and Michael Grease, all on Zoom. So welcome to you all, and whenever you are set up, you can go ahead and proceed.
Charles, are you able to unmute your mic?
This is Franklin Sepulveda.
Thank you.
This is Franklin Sepulveda. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. I'm the Executive Director of the Traffic Enforcement District. I will be presenting with the attached documentation that you have in front of you regarding 9525 Queens Boulevard in Flushing, New York, occupying the 4th floor of this location. So we are the Traffic Enforcement District. We have we serve 6 police precincts, 6 community boards. We do traffic enforcement throughout the whole city, but mainly it's going to be in Queens North Enforcement, serving the 6 precincts and the community boards that I mentioned. We are dedicating our resources to the enforcement of parking rules and regulations, directing of traffic at major intersections where traffic needs to be mitigated by a traffic agent at the location. We also have what's called safety and mobility posts, where we also mitigate traffic and we try to expedite traffic as best as we can along the bridges and the tunnels. We do towing when vehicles need to be removed to release space for the movement of traffic. We enforce the traffic lanes, the bus lanes, the bike lanes, and all that stuff. So if anybody's obstructing it, we look to remove that vehicle and take an enforcement action. We also have what's called construction and compliance. So if you open up a street or manhole in the street, we go and make sure you have a permit to do so. And if you don't, we take appropriate action and issue citations, or we try to shut down the location to get the roadway lanes back. We also serve on all special events, parades, any protests that you may have, or anything of a nature where it's unplanned. We direct resources to address the condition, whatever it may be. We respond to all emergencies throughout the whole city, and we handle the emergencies according to the nature of the emergencies. We do Vision Zero corridors, where we patrol specific corridors for zero tolerance enforcement. And we also have presently we have a ghost plate operation that's going on citywide with the illegal license plates throughout the whole city. We've taken enforcement action with them and addressing that accordingly as well. So that's basically what we do as a traffic enforcement unit. We are a 7-day operation. We are from 0700 hours to approximately 2000 hours at night, 8 p.m., Monday through Friday. On the weekends, we have a shorter staff, and we patrol from, we actually operate from like 7 in the morning till about 1900 at night, which is 7 p.m. That's Saturdays and Sundays. Again, it all depends on the nature of what's going on in the city and what the needs are for our location. Our current location is 135-20 32nd Avenue in Flushing. That's where we currently are housed. However, the landlord has expressed that he is not willing to renegotiate the lease, as he wants to remodel his facility, possibly do demolition and build a new facility at the location where we are now. So therefore, we visited several locations. Can you hear me?
We can. Your time just ended, but I would like you to just finish that thought so that we can make sure we
visited several locations, to try to come up with which best location suited it, and we found that 9525 Queens Boulevard suited all our needs, essentially located in our area of patrol, and it does have a parking facility available on the first floor for our marked vehicles that we will be parking inside the facility. We're close to public transportation, so our personnel does use public transportation to and from work. We don't anticipate anyone parking on the street. You also have a diagram of what the parking layout is going to be, which is attached to the presentation, and it also includes electric vehicles as well. There'll be 4 to 8 stations for electric vehicles. You have a blueprint of the layout. You have a picture of the facility itself, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great. Thank you very much, and thank you for being with us. I also note thank you for the work that you all do. That's obviously a very, very difficult job, and we appreciate your efforts. Let me see if there are questions, starting with the Vice Chairman.
Same question as to the prior transaction. What is the proposed length of this lease?
The proposed length will be 20 years, beginning upon substantial completion, and there will be 2 5-year options.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Rampersad.
Just a point of clarification. On the first slide, you put 9525 as Flushing, but that's Rego Park. I think you should modify that.
We will take.
Other than that, the last question is the same question as before. If you had to expand, is there room to expand at this current location, at this new proposed location? If you had to expand staff.
Mike Rice, you want to answer that, or you want me to take it?
We always try to account for 10% growth. So anytime that we look at a space, we do take that into consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Gold.
And sorry, Director Sepulveda, just a quick one. We have in front of us 232 personnel operating in several shifts. Can you just talk for a second how many of those are, let's say, inside versus agents, or does that include everyone?
Right, that includes everyone, but our 95%, 97 to 98% of our personnel all go in the field. They're only there temporarily to in a locker room to change into uniforms and get into the appropriate and get the directions for the day. But 97%, I would say, of all personnel are in the field at all times. We have a very minimal office staff that maintains the office throughout the day.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And that's all the questions that I see for you all, the applicant team. So thank you to NYPD and DCAS for joining us today, and we will see if there are members of the public who wish to be heard. I do not see any on my list. We'll just make a final check. Seeing none, we'll close the hearing on calendar number 27. Madam Secretary, what is next for us?
There is no other business before the Commission for the public meeting, but I do have some public information to share. For those of you who were unable to or did not wish to testify, you can submit written testimony online by selecting this hearing on the NYC Engage portal, through DCP's website, or by mailing your comments to City Planning Commission, Calendar Information Office, 120 Broadway, 31st floor, New York, New York, 10271. The time now is 10:29.
Great. Thank you very much. And now at 10:29, we will adjourn our public meeting, and with a reminder that we will be commencing with a special review session in just a moment. So with that, we are adjourned. And welcome, everybody, to the special review session of the City Planning Commission of January 22nd, 2025. Madam Secretary, if you could just introduce the item that we're going to hear today.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning and welcome to the City Planning Commission Special Review Session for Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025. The time now is 10:30 a.m. and a quorum is present. The first item on our agenda is a non-ULURP post-referral review for a previously approved authorization in Manhattan Community District 2. Our presenter is Ben Huff.
Okay, thank you, Ben. A quick reminder to the Commission, this is the item that we had heard briefly yesterday, questions about the West Village houses, 168 parking spaces, et cetera, et cetera. We had some follow-up questions, and Ben is here to answer them. Ben, welcome back.
Oh, there it is. That's hard to see. Good morning, Commissioners. So we discussed yesterday 125 Perry Street in West Village, Manhattan. It's a second renewal of an 1143 renewal of a 13443 authorization to remove required parking spaces. So one of the questions that we had yesterday was what would happen if a 13443 authorization was not renewed. So if the authorization is not renewed, the parking would remain or revert back to the required parking spaces. That would be unfortunate for this application as the original owner who had the required parking spaces has already sold the building. But I think the question was posed more broadly. So in order to remove required parking in the Manhattan core, you must apply for the 13443 authorization. Again, if the commission were to not renew it, they would likely just come back to the commission requesting the same authorization with a similar application if they still wanted to move forward with that, removing the parking. So that's the first question I have. I don't know if there's any clarification on that anyone needs.
I'll just make sure that I'm clear. So the answer is that a non-renewal of this authorization, the rules would revert back to the initial parking requirement. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then to remove parking, and you may be about to talk about the process, so I'm going to hold this question, but I think that you're going to tell us about removal of any parking requirements. You said still needs 13443, but why don't you put that into the broader context for us? Go ahead, Commissioner Cerullo.
Just to build on that, just to make sure that the clarification is really clear. So in the event, if we had the discretion just to say no, or we didn't believe that conditions hadn't changed or had not changed in order for this to continue, and we voted it down, the applicant could reapply for the 13443 under the newer conditions that we may have determined existed at the time. So that process doesn't disappear for an applicant, but at the moment in time, we voted down and the renewal is not granted, and the time period between the rejection of the renewal and a new application in action, the original, whatever preceded the first approval would then be controlling again on the parking, of course.
I was going to say that's a great clarification, and that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Appreciate it. Thank you.
One more.
Okay, Commissioner Benjamin.
There was reference in the packet and a letter from the Department of Buildings and one from BSA that suggested that whether we approve this or not, they already considered that the conditions had been met so that this permit was, whether we approve the permit or not, the conditions had been met and the parking would not be required.
That was a letter from the council of the West Village houses, like referencing another application, I think.
Well, it referenced this application, and there was an attachment from the buildings department that said, yes, his understanding was correct.
Yes, I believe they were speaking of a different building, though, in that letter that went through a similar process. But, you know, the certificate of occupancy still refers to the required parking spaces. They are still in the process of converting the building, so we had advised the applicant to just do the renewal, and to just make sure that everything's clear on this application.
Okay, then.
Okay, then what was the other point that you were going to make?
So one of the other questions was, how have parking requirements changed as a result of CHO? So I just want to clarify, this application is not impacted by CHO. CHO primarily changed City of Yes Housing Opportunity. I should say the full name. It primarily changed the parking regulations outside of the Manhattan core in LIC. So this area is in the Manhattan core and would still seek a 13443 authorization to remove previously required parking. So now that we have the housing opportunity text, how does one remove required parking in the inner and outer transit zone? So housing opportunity, like I said, it lowered or removed parking requirements for new dwellings in many parts of the city outside of the Manhattan core and LIC. So for existing buildings in the inner transit zone, there is a new authorization, 7531, to remove previously required parking. It is similar to the Manhattan core, 13443, and has very similar conditions and findings. And for existing buildings in the outer transit zone and beyond the greater transit zone, there is a special permit, 7452, to remove previously required off-street parking. So there's, you know, we've sort of expanded this authorization, but the Manhattan core and LIC, it's the same condition.
Okay, so there is a procedure that exists that is analogous to 13443, that is 7531. That's to remove parking where it was initially required, but that is, you said, outside of the Manhattan core where it already had been eliminated. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Benjamin.
So I know this action is only about the building on Perry Street, but does West Village Apartments have to change their C of O? Since their C of O now, and irrespective of what we do on Perry Street, their C of O still now says that they have 168 required parking spaces.
We'd have to get back to you on exactly how the lifting of the parking requirement would be effectuated by DOB. Department of City Planning doesn't administer certificates of occupancy, but the effect of the implementation of the authorization that's being renewed today would be to lift that requirement for required accessory parking at West Village houses.
Okay, if you could get back to me, I'm very curious about what happens to West Village Apartment and what relief they may need to seek in changing their C of O, and what would happen if they tried to change it. Would buildings just say, okay, you don't need the parking because you gave it away? So if you could get back to me on that.
We will. I mean, my guess is that it's administrative, that there wouldn't be another discretionary action involved. This is the discretionary action that would authorize the changing of the C of O, but we'll go to DOB and we'll confirm.
Okay. Are there other questions before we vote on this item? Okay. So we'll follow up with you, Commissioner Benjamin, on the answer to that specific question. And in the interim, I'm going to seek assent by a voice vote to send an approval letter on this one to the Department of Buildings. All those in favor, please say aye. 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 All opposed, nay. Okay. Ayes have it. This item is approved. Thank you, gentlemen, for your follow-up. And I know we were deep in the weeds on this one. Good place to be. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Are there other items for our special review session today?
No, Chair, there are not.
Okay, wonderful. With that, the special review session is now adjourned. Thank you all.
and I only made it because they said this was gonna be an